and that everybody's here on time.
Yeah, I know who that is.
And so I guess I will go ahead and call the meeting to order. And Lena is here to call the roll, so I'll go ahead and call the roll. Everybody on, we have everybody on the executive committee is here, and we have staff members, Aaron Burgess Jr., who is our policy advisor. Is that your title as a manager? Policy manager. And is Olga on?
Yeah.
Olga Lube, our chief investigator, is on remotely. Alina Conde, hi Alina, is on remotely. And Janae McFarland, our administrative aide, is on remotely as well. And can everybody hear us?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
And
Just
so the next item is the approval of the minutes of our last executive committee meeting, which was on December the 12th. And they got out late because, as you may have seen from the messages to your city email account, the city's server was down on Friday. It affected all city departments, and it included her ability to access the information for the minutes, but she got those done yesterday and sent them out by email this morning. And I asked her to print them out in case anybody didn't get a chance to look them over. And so, is there a motion to, first of all, are there any corrections or changes to the agenda? I mean, to the minutes?
I move to accept.
Okay, is there a second? Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions again? That's unanimous. And Alina, I assume you're taking minutes, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. Can you hear me?
She typically does.
Okay. Well, she unmuted, but I didn't hear what she had to say, but I assume that she is. If not, she has the, you're taping this, and so we should go back and look at the tape. And the person I didn't introduce, I wanted him to introduce himself, is our new general counsel.
I'm sorry, you can't hear us at all.
Nope.
Okay, just
Uh,
gonna fix it. And yes, I will take minutes.
Is Bart Meisfeld. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly.
It's actually Miesfeld, like I hate Mises to pieces.
Okay. And I will allow him to introduce himself and talk about his background and so forth.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I won't take too much time, but I grew up in San Diego. Lived here. My dad passed away when I was a teenager and kind of was just left with me and my mom. I went to San Diego State University. I went to classes during the day, worked as a janitor at night, finished up getting a structural engineering degree. Did very well, top 10% of my class in my engineering discipline nationwide. Worked as an engineer for a little while for the city of El Cajon, and I didn't like it. So I decided to go back to school. My father was a physician, my grandfather was a physician, my mother was a chemist, my brother's a professor at University of Arizona Medical School, and a coach. So I went to law school. I went to Cal Western here again. I took classes in the day and worked as a clerk at night. Worked construction during the summers to get through, and I was lucky enough to do very well. I graduated with highest distinction, magna cum laude, and I went to work right away as a trial attorney with a medium-sized firm here. Ended up trying cases in every court in San Diego County. After about 9 years, I decided what I might want to do is be a law professor. So I met with some of my previous professors, and they said, you need a better pedigree. So I went back to school. I took a course, a program of instruction at Harvard Law School, finished that, came back, and sure enough, I got a job at USD as an adjunct professor teaching law at night. Again, I worked during the day and I taught at night. I did that for about 9 years.
What did you teach?
I taught trial practice, evidence, kind of trial related procedures. At the same time that I decided to go kind of, when I did my Harvard stint, I changed. I decided I had little kids, and being in trial and away from home all the time was not a good thing. So I decided I'd go to work at the city attorney's office, started in Chula Vista as a bottom deputy city one, moved my way up, assistant city attorney's senior assistant until I was finally appointed city attorney for Chula Vista, and did that until it became an elected position. And I decided I'm not a politician. I don't want to run for it. So I dropped back down to the number 2 position and did that till I left the city just before COVID. And then after that, I had a solo practice doing basically municipal public things. Pick things up like would be general counsel to the El Cajon Personnel Commission when they had issues with discipline and termination. Heard about this and was lucky enough to apply, and lucky enough that y'all decided to give me a job. So I'm looking forward to it.
What made you interested in this?
You know what, my career as a trial attorney and then with city attorney, of course, I work with the police department, and I was in charge of all litigation for the city attorney's office in Chula Vista. And I thought we had a pretty good department, but there were problems in the department, and it was my job to weed those problems out. So I was in litigation against the officers who were bad actors. And I felt like there wasn't a whole lot of transparency in it. There wasn't a whole lot of accountability, although I think Chula Vista has an excellent police department. And so I see the need for an oversight commission. And when I interviewed with Doug, I said, it's kind of exciting to know that this is kind of in the infancy, and we really have an opportunity to develop a good system here, a good program, good oversight that potentially, could be one of the better programs in the whole country. So I was thinking this was a good time to get on board. Maybe I can be a part of it.
Well, thank you.
What high school did you graduate from?
Well, it used to be called University High School.
Oh,
It's now,
Uni.
yeah,
Now it's Cathedral.
now it's
Catholic.
Cathedral. Yeah.
I went to Crawford, that's why I
Oh,
asked.
okay.
A little disappointed in the engineering part.
I got out of it.
That's what I'm disappointed
Oh,
on.
well, I tell you the truth, I wasn't a good engineer. I was really good at school, but actually being a practicing engineer, and it happened right, I don't know, you're too young to remember this, but right when I started practicing in Kansas City, they had this catwalk at a hotel at the Hyatt in Kansas City, and they had too many people on it. And it crashed and it killed, I can't remember, but like 20 people, but it was all a structural engineering problem with the design. And I thought, I don't want to be that guy.
Makes sense.
Right. Any other further questions for Bart? So it's
Thank you.
So glad you're here.
Meesfeld, yes.
Meesfeld, okay.
And I'm happy, I'll get your emails and I'll send you off a
How do you
resume.
want to be addressed?
You can address me as Bart. I mean,
Bart. Okay.
I'm on board now. I don't have a whole lot of resources yet because I can't get my computer system. on.
Cut him some slack here, Alex.
I would say too, with that kind of question, I want to make sure everybody is aware. I am the commission's general counsel. And so I'm happy to speak with any of you, but again, I'm not your personal
Oh, I
attorney.
see.
I have to, my loyalty is to the commission. So sometimes, even with city council members, I like, yeah, you know what? Can't help you on that one.
Okay, any other questions? And by the way, I like using first names in small committees, and so if anybody has an objection to be calling by your first name rather than your official title.
Full name, please.
Okay, then I will call first.
Liz.
Okay.
No, Ada's fine.
Okay. Now, the next item, which I put on the agenda so we could discuss it, why I had to amend the agenda, because I found out about this on Friday afternoon after I'd already sent Helena the agenda. Is the discussion that I had with a council member, Marty Von Wilpert, who is the chair of the Public Safety Committee. And I was following up with her comments that she made at the city council meeting a couple of weeks ago. I think it was on the 13th when they were had on the agenda.
Did you ask for non-agenda public comment?
Oh, thank you very much. Let me pause, and our parliamentarian corrected me. Thank you.
Parliamentary.
I was
Oh.
about to ask it. Do we-
You're parliamentary. No, I know why.
No.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought that, but anyway, I appreciate being corrected if I move ahead. And so, is there any non-agenda public comment? There's nobody here to, I don't see anybody on the Zoom meeting, so I'm assuming that there is nobody to make a non-agenda public comment. And so then we'll move on to, actually, we already should have done that before we introduced our general counsel, but we didn't. So anyway, now moving on to the item 6. And she indicated, as you saw, if you watch the video of the meeting, yes, she made a motion which was unanimous to postpone appointment of further commissioners until they had a chance, the city council, to sort out what was happening with the commission. Those weren't her exact words, but that was essentially what she said. And so purpose of my telephone meeting with her was to kind of follow up on that. And I learned that she is planning to bring forward to the Public Safety Committee meeting, which meets monthly, and their meeting is on Wednesday, February 12th at 2 p.m. Revisions to our implementation ordinance. And the members of the Public Safety Committee are, she chairs it, Raul Campillo, Stephen Whitburn, and I think Jen Campbell. Same composition as last time. And she didn't go into great detail of what she was proposing, but she indicated that both in our conversation with me, and I think she referenced it in the city council meeting, that she had read the memos we received, the exit memos we got from Paul and Dwayne, and that was the basis of her concern. And so she told me at the meeting I had with the telephone meeting I had with her last Friday, that she would be bringing forth some amendments. And the only two topics she mentioned were the composition of the commission and the termination process for the executive director. So I assume that's all that will be included. And she's interested in, and I'm assuming just based on the discussion that her recommendations will mirror what Paul included in his exit memo. So in terms of downsizing the commission, he recommended there be 13 commissioners, 1 from each city council district, 2 from low and moderate income precincts, and 2 youth commissioners. I told her that we had, I explained why in the development of the initial ordinance, they came up with the 25, and it was based on workload of commissioners. And that we had just begun a new system on a provisional basis of doing case review that would take less time of commissioners. And I told her, that I had open mind with regard to the size of the commission, but I had some concerns about how Paul envisioned it being comprised. And then the other issue was termination of the executive director, and the comment that Paul made, maybe we can find Paul's. Paul's letter said it's crucial the executive director is held accountable to the proper process. Such accountability ensures the executive director can focus on the long-term goals of the CPP without undue pressure or fear of arbitrary dismissal. The executive director position should only be terminated for cause after a vote by the CPP and forwarded to the city council for the final decision, as they should be ultimately responsible for the hiring and firing of the executive director. As you probably know, the charter states that while the executive director is appointed by the city council, the executive director serves at the will and direction of the commission. And I asked the council member how you can get around that, and she was kind of evasive, but said there's ways of doing it, and that's what she was working on.
Get around what exactly?
Having the commission being the entity that terminates the executive director.
That's not what we want, right?
No, that is what we want.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we want to be in charge.
It
Yeah.
speaks to our
We don't want-
independence.
Yeah, we don't want the city.
Does, but at
to
the same time, I think it's I think the suggestion is that we give our vote of yes, he should be fired or no, but then the city council has the last say. I think that's fair, because I wouldn't want to be executive director. I'm on the hands of the commission, like, how can I be genuinely honest if I'm at fear of reprisal?
I disagree. I'm an executive director and I work for a board, just like a commission, and I serve with the pleasure of the board. If the board does not want me to be there, then they can fire me.
And
So it is very standard, but the
Yeah.
other point that you made in his letter is about for cause. So I would imagine that every city of San Diego employee, you were recently hired, are you at will?
I'm at will.
Yeah, that is a major liability for the city. So that's a whole other issue.
and the reason that she indicated she wanted to move forward with that was that in the prior search, one of the top candidates had indicated that the termination process was a concern to him, and it was a job security issue, and wasn't willing to make a move to San Diego unless under those circumstances, and withdrew from the process. And then when Paul raised a similar concern, her feeling is, and she says that she has the support of her fellow council members, is that they should resolve this issue before they initiate a search for a permanent executive director. And I asked her how long is that going to be, and she explained that it takes a while to amend an ordinance. It has to go through the commission. I mean, it has to go through the committee, and then to the full city council.
But it doesn't come to us. They do it all independently.
It's all
of us.
independently, yeah.
Yeah, that's not good.
And the city council has to vote on it, and then has to come back for a second reading, and it takes 30 days for it to go into effect. And she also mentioned that the budget hearings are coming up at the city, and that's going to be taking a lot of their time. And so she made a comment that she didn't think that they would be able to begin the executive director search until the summer. And I told her I had great concerns about that. And I think a bigger concern that I personally have is that and she also said, and I clarified with her later that day when I saw her at another function, that her plan is to propose these at February 12th, to have the committee vote on them on February 12th, and then move it on to the full council, which would be fast tracking it, which could be good if we're trying to get it happen quickly. But my concern is that I think there should have been input from the commission and from the community before
Changing the ordinance.
before
absolutely.
members of the city council recommend changing the ordinance. So any comments, thoughts?
I'm in the middle. Cause I'm like, we gotta get to work. We gotta get to action. We need an executive director. I get that. But at the same time, it didn't work. What we have going on right now, it's not working. The 25 commissioners, we can even get up to 25. It's hard, so it's like, you gotta weigh out sometimes.
Well, I think in some respects, we haven't tested it. Like, this commission was formed with volunteers first and staff later. That's totally upside down.
Right,
And so how do we even know if 25 volunteers works or not? How do we know?
because we haven't been able to get 25.
Well, there's been turnover and stuff. I don't know if that's necessarily a fair statement.
There will always be turnover, whether you have a commission of 13 or you have a commission of 25.
Yeah.
So
This plane is being built while it's flying.
Yeah.
We don't even have our regulations in place yet, and that's gonna be a time consuming process. So I think it's a little premature to be challenging the structure before we've had a chance for the structure to actually get in place and try to function.
And we also have to remember how we got here. Yes, we did not build out a staff. There was a strategic decision that was made when Charmaine was the interim executive director to not allow her to hire a deputy. Then when she resigned, there was no deputy to fill temporarily that leadership position for the staff. And so other staff members had to kind of, step up and do that. We were fortunate to have Danelle Scarborough temporarily. But during the time where we're forming as a body, which we still are, all of these things happen. And clearly there were, personality conflicts between Paul and our leadership, and that sometimes happens. I'm in that situation right now in my job. And, I'm concerned that this is a reactionary thing to make permanent changes to a body that is so new and hasn't been tested either in its size or in its ability, to have an effective relationship with an executive director long-term.
I agree. That's what I mean, it's in the middle, but then I also look at it. I think Paul Parker was great.
Yeah.
And I think his recommendations come with his experience. And I think they should not 100% be adopted, but considered.
my concern is primarily the process.
Yeah.
Because I have maybe somewhere in the middle with regard to the recommendations, which I haven't seen yet.
Yeah.
Because I know that she's already sent them to the city attorney to draft the language. But my concern is that you should have asked the commission and the community first what their thoughts were before making recommendations to change the ordinance. When we developed the ordinance, there was a lot of, a long process of getting community input. We had community town halls and numerous meetings.
And you shared that with her. And she said, too bad, so sad, I'm doing it this way anyway.
Not really, because she basically had told me this is what she was doing. And so I had time to think about it over the weekend. And that's why I put it on the agenda. I would like for the commission to express that sentiment officially to the Public Safety Committee, that we would like for the commission to have an opportunity to weigh in before they move forward with changes to the full city council.
So, what they're doing is just a draft for now, or it's gonna be the change?
Well, I mean, her plan is to bring it to the Public Safety Committee on the 12th. But she mentioned that she can't discuss it with the rest of the committee because the Brown Act doesn't allow her to do that. But her plan is to have the city council draft the language. It'll be posted with the agenda, which would have to be by February the 7th. So she told me she would give me a copy once it's ready, which may or may not be before February 7th. So we probably won't know what it says prior to our meeting next week. But again, my concern is the process, not necessarily what the what it should say, and and probably the rest of the commission probably would want to think about it for a while too and get community input
I
before.
think a couple of us should go to that meeting for public comment.
Oh, absolutely.
More than a couple.
Yeah, and if we don't have a commission vote on the proposals, we can go, but we'd have to identify ourselves as I'm on the commission, but I'm speaking as an individual. And
But we could have it on the agenda for our meeting, which is before the 12th.
yeah, and my plan is to put it on the agenda. I'm not sure whether we ought to try to come up with a response to a proposal we haven't seen yet officially.
But the point that you're making, that this process right now that's been outlined
Mhm.
is missing a really key component. And so our position is that that component needs to be added in.
Right, so that would be the motion that I think I would want, is to ask the Public Safety Committee to defer action until the commission has had a chance to review the proposals and make.
And the community.
And the community, yes. And I think if we're gonna review it, we would invite the community to
Sure.
be part of that, but the community may want to, separately from the commission, want to do that as well. Okay, so
Where's the public safety committee's meeting?
they meet in City Hall, sometimes it's in the, yeah, sometimes it's in the council chambers and sometimes it's in the committee room, which is on the same floor as you get off the elevators to the left.
For purposes of me putting in my calendar, we don't know where it is right now.
It'll be on the 12th floor of the city council of 202 C Street. Whether it's on the council chambers or the adjacent room, I don't know.
Thank you.
And so, yeah, I would encourage us all to go there.
On that point, however, since this is an issue of the commission, even though it's not our meeting, it's not our agenda, what are the Brown Act limitations of being, of how many commissioners can actually participate in the meeting?
You can participate as an individual and just, as Chairman said, identify yourself that you are on the commission, but that you're addressing them as an individual, not as part of the commission.
So all 17 votes can be there.
Yep.
They have to identify themselves as a commissioner, speaking on behalf of themselves.
Well, and just as an aside, I didn't mention this when Robert was introducing himself, but one of the things that impressed Paul and me when we interviewed him was his expertise in the Brown Act and POBAR and the California Public Records Act, which are three things that our commission has to deal with on a regular basis. Okay, can we move on to the next item then? And that's the executive director, interim executive director hiring update. I think I just gave the executive director hiring update. They plan on using the same process, and so I told them we've already appointed our 4 people. She's going to chair it again, and she's not positive who the second person is going to be. Last time it was Raul Campillo, and it may be him or maybe somebody else. I'm sure it would be somebody from the Public Safety Committee, would be my guess.
Is there a timeline?
Or this charter thing.
Yeah, this charter thing is, I mean, she chairs
So
the committee.
that's gonna stop the
Well, yeah,
deputy too, right?
yes.
Well, interim, that's a whole other.
Yeah, well, but
Okay.
you raise a good point, and so it would delay the hiring of the permanent executive director, and then it also would delay the hiring of the deputy executive director, because the feeling was the reason we didn't go ahead and fill it, even though we were in the middle, almost done with the process, was that Paul felt strongly that the deputy executive director should, you know.
It was the same argument when Charmaine was here.
Yeah, you know, that the executive director should hire their deputy. And so we would not have that position filled either. Now, in terms of the interim, I also talked to the council member about that, because her staff had alerted me that I notified them of our personnel committee's recommendation. And then they got back to me and said that the city attorney doesn't believe that city council has the authority to appoint a interim or acting executive director, which made no sense to me because they'd appointed Charmaine Mosley as interim executive director, and they had appointed Danelle Scarborough as an interim executive director. And they said that Danelle was a special situation because she was a provisional employee, but that didn't apply to Charmaine. They didn't explain what the legal issue was. Marnie told me that they had resolved it. So I've been trying to find out this week, when's it going to move forward to the city council. I called the city council president's office sitting here back. So I called Eric Young, who is the policy advisor for Councilmember Von Wilpert. And he said that they're still working out the details with the city attorney's office, which I thought had been worked out. But the council president's office is committed to moving it expeditiously once that's taken care of. And so hopefully that'll happen fairly soon. And then number 8 is the update on filling commission vacancies, and that's kind of the same update as the other, and that makes some degree of sense that they're looking at changing the number. It doesn't make sense to appoint new people if you're going to be reducing the number, but I don't know what the transition plan is if they were to reduce the number. What does that mean to the current commissioners? Because even if they don't appoint anybody else, we have 17 commissioners. If they reduce it to 13, who goes? And if it's based upon those recommendations, does that mean all the at-large people go? I don't know. I don't know what the plan is, and I don't know whether that will be included in the proposal or not.
That's a dramatic shift. 25 to 13.
And like I said, I personally have mixed feelings about that. I'm amenable to reducing the size of the commission if we are able to have staff take up much of the work. But I have concerns about who comprises those 13, whatever the number is, people.
Well, and also there's the issue of someday, hopefully in the future, the commission is going to be doing independent investigations. And so then do you need to rely on volunteer commissioners more for the auditing role of IA? Because you're still going to do that, right? So I think it just seems like it's very reactionary and short-term thinking in my mind.
Yeah, and we haven't completed, we just began our 6-month trial method of reducing a case review, which I have on the agenda later. But anyway, so the update is it's all on hold, and it may not happen until the summer as well. And that relates to the budget update and input. And we have Jaime online there. Hi, Jaime. And
Hi.
let me give an overview, then I may turn it over to him. One of the roles of the executive committee is to provide guidance and input to the executive director on budget and finance issues. That's one of the things that are specifically identified in our bylaws. That hasn't happened in the past, but the executive committee has only met one time prior to now. And the last budget cycle was pretty pro forma, in that there were only minor changes to the budget from the previous year. The way that the city council operates when they have their hearings are they look at the changes. And so if there's any things that are being cut or things that are being added, they just look at the changes. And there weren't any substantive changes other than maybe moving a few things around last year. And so it wasn't really an issue that the commission itself got involved in. This year is a different situation because of the city's financial situation. And that applies going forward with the next budget process. The city council is actually already begun the process. Well, the city's begun the process, and the city council will have hearings in May and June prior to the end of the fiscal year for the new budget. And the city council serves as a committee of the whole and has budget hearings over all city departments. Short term, though, because of the failure of, is it Measure E? The mayor has directed that all city departments have a 20% decrease this fiscal year, which begins June 30th. Paul informed me when I met with him before he left that our plan, well, two things. Number one, he said that it's not clear to what degree the city can direct us because we are an independent commission. So we may not be subject to the same mandate that all the other departments are. You know, on the other hand, the city does hold the purse strings. And the plan was for Jaime to negotiate with them, and we're going to offer two things. Number one was a reduction in legal fees because of the legal contract, and then secondly, to remove the performance auditor from this year's budget. We've already begun the process of recruiting for that, but we haven't. All we've done is collect applications, is what my understanding is. I learned in talking with Olga this week, who's handling the paperwork issues, the process issues, until we have an interim executive director, explained to me that if we drop the performance auditor now, it's not like you're pausing it. I thought the proposal was to pause it. But it sounds like, and I can be corrected and Jaime can correct me, that if we drop it now, we are unlikely to get it back in next year's budget or future year's budgets. And I see the performance auditor as being essential to the commission.
Paul did too.
And part of our, and personally, I think it's more important than deputy executive director. Others may have differing opinions on that, but I think it's an essential component to not only, well, we have a mandate to observe the city's compliance with a multitude of local, state, and federal reporting requirements. We have a whole operating procedure on that, and all that work is going to be done by the performance auditor. In addition, we're doing a lot of things where we need a performance auditor. Issues came up with the K-9 unit at a recent meeting. We've had questions about the city, what the city does with its data with regard to police pursuits and pretext stops and so forth. And so the performance auditor is the person that gets the information of what is the city doing and gives it to the commission to respond to. So I think it's an important position.
Doug, is that the last remaining position besides the ones we've already talked about? Anticipated position?
I think so.
But there, like, for example, the investigation team is intended to be 3.
We may need to increase the number of investigators in the future, because when we developed the number of investigators, and actually I think over the past year or two we've actually had to reduce that as we made some other changes to the chart. But when we looked at the number of investigators, the thinking was that those would be people who would do independent investigations. It was not conceived when this organization chart was developed that the investigators would be working on reviewing internal affairs cases. And for the time being, that works out now because we have investigators who are hired and trained who can't do independent investigations. And so it makes a lot of sense for us to be utilizing your talents to do that. But once they get the authority to do independent investigations, we're going to need additional investigators to do the review of internal affairs cases, especially if we're going to, keep that as a staff thing. Yeah, Alan.
There's a difference between the org chart online and the one in front of us. The one in front of us has,
Oh, did you get a copy of that?
has a chief investigator and two junior investigators or two, not chief investigators, so a total of three, but online, it has a chief investigator, it has investigator Lee, and then three other investigator positions. So it's the chief plus four investigators, so this is the chief and two investigators. I don't know why there's a difference.
I think the one on the site is the target once we get the right to investigate.
Yeah, well, that's how it is.
Can I see the one online? Okay, well, let me, at this point, if I can turn it over to Jaime and you can correct anything that I said that is not correct, maybe let us know
That's what it is.
where we are for the current fiscal year and what the recommendations are going to be for the next fiscal year, and then maybe address the issue of the org chart as well.
Can you hear me? Okay. So for fiscal year 2025, which is the current fiscal year, we have a budget of a total of 2.1 million. 1.6 is the personnel component, and we have about $500,000 that we can spend on non-personnel related things like equipment, contracts, utilities, things like that. So far, because of the enormous vacancies this office has had, we're at about 36% of our personnel budget. So that's what we've used so far, and we're projecting about 66% of our personnel budget by the end of the year, and that's not including positions that we may hire in the near future, such as the vacant positions that we have. That's not in our forecast yet because we really don't know when we're going to have those hired. Also, our non-personnel expenditures, we're about 77%. We're forecasting that to the end of the year. So what does that mean? We have a lot of money to go, and we have 12 positions that we are funding with this budget. So the position, the org chart that you see, that it does say 3 positions that are investigators, but what we have in the budget is only 2, and 2 along with their supervisor, which is Olga. So I don't know if you know, but we did ask to add on 2 additional investigators for the mid-year starting in January. But with this hiring freeze that happened and the city's dire budget situation, they quickly signaled to the personnel director quickly signaled to Paul that's probably going to get some negative comments, and that's likely is not going to proceed. So we decided not to pursue that because they were not already in the budget. And so I wanted to go through the steps that we took to build their FY 2026 proposed budget. So we received a strategic hiring freeze on 12/4, and the hiring freeze, asked us to ask for our positions to be hired if we were going to pursue hiring. So the mayor's office and their designees would be identifying positions that they would, allow to move forward. And at the same time, we did ask, when we found out, we asked for our positions to move forward, which is the general counsel, the executive, deputy executive director, and the performance auditor. All 3 were green lighted, and they were proceeding. Then they also, a few days later, they came up with a requirement to reduce the budget by 20%, starting off. So we take our amount of FY 2025 funds and we reduce that by 20% going into 2026. So we knew that we were not going to hit this target. And so Paul and I scheduled meetings with the mayor's office and explained that there was just no way we're going to meet that. And we had a conversation of what was the priority for the office and what we were looking at. And so ultimately it was up to us to, because we're an independent department office, it's up to us to put a proposal together. And so we identified the performance manager, the performance auditor, which is budgeted as a program manager, which has a salary of about 137,000 a year plus fringe. And we put that on the table, not to proceed with hiring for FY 2025, but identified that for FY 2026 as a potential that we could eliminate. And aside from that, we analyzed FY 2022, 23, 24, and the current year, and identified there were probably some excesses somewhere in the budget that we could reduce by. And so we put together a package to reduce a total of $155,000. So, we had, we were still not going to meet our target. And even if that position came into play, the program manager performance auditor position came into play, we were going to be somewhere like 12% of the target. And we were asked to, by the way, we were asked to reduce $429,166 from our FY 25 level budget. So we came up with a budget reduction proposal of about 357,000, and we're still shy about 71,000. So what are our options? We discussed with them the idea of not hiring for the performance auditor for FY 2026, but we need that position back. And they could not guarantee it, you're right, that they will not guarantee it, and that will not constitute a reduction. It would just constitute savings from what we're budgeting. So we were way short of our intended goal. So our option now is stick with what we have and ask for the budget that we're starting with, which is shy $71,000 from the original cut, and the other option is to swap out the position that we're cutting, reinstate both positions, ironically, is a program manager position. The deputy executive director position is budgeted at 170,000, and the performance auditor was 137. So if we were to swap them out, we would actually offer up a higher cut for that position. So needless to say, they probably would like that because we're helping out a little bit more.
But would we be in the same situation if we proceeded performance auditor and eliminated the deputy executive director? Would we be able to get that position back in future years?
That would be up to the commission and the the executive director that's appointed to really fight for that position to be back. But I think we would be on record that we really need that position back, and it would be part of the discussion that we will have with the executive committee on February 11th, which we are supposed to discuss our budget and allow them to ask questions of our proposal. We would make that impression, and that's unfortunately that's the best we could do at that point.
So does that leave us then like within like $30,000 or $40,000 of the target if we were to swap out the performance auditor and the deputy? Is that what you're saying?
Pretty close, yes.
Okay.
The deputy executive director position is about $28,000 more with Fringe. So yeah, so it will be a lot closer to the target that they are requesting, but and I'm sure they would like that.
And to what degree is the target mandatory? In other words, is the fact that we are an independent commission give us any flexibility that other departments may not have?
Oh yeah, I think so. I think that the fact that that the directive was 20% and they're entertaining it at less than 12, and now if you factor in the Fringe budget for this position, we're at 17%. We're not quite there, but I think they'll take what we have to offer. But they were really impressing on me to find another 71,000 to meet their deadline, to meet their target. So I've had several meetings with the Department of Finance. Even though we are independent, you're right about saying they control the purse strings.
So just to be clear, they control the purse strings, of course, but are you saying that we have a legal or otherwise opinion that our quote independence, which is questionable in this moment, makes no difference when it comes to mandatory or requested budget cuts? Is that what you're saying?
I really can't say that, but that's the truth, because we are not a mayoral department. I've never seen a budget year this bad. So what will happen, what we need to do is uncharted. But I've always, advised Paul that since we are independent, we could submit what we are willing to submit. So we had a conversation with the mayoral department, the mayor's office, and they really didn't give us any clear advice. So I think it's still up to this, up to this department to put together a package that they'll consider.
Okay, Olga has her hand raised. Olga, do you want to speak?
Yes, if I could weigh in a little bit, just because I was involved in the budget process last year when there were already signs about budget cuts. So just to give you an example, we were also directed to cut the budget last year. So when we were developing the current fiscal budget, the current year's fiscal budget, and the same issue came up, right? This is an independent department. How independent are we? I don't think we ever got an answer, but we were ultimately forced to make the cut that was made for the current fiscal year. So another thing I think that is important to consider for the next fiscal year is it's pretty clear that the city is in very bad financial situation. So they're taking more specific, more targeted measures than they were taking last year. From the meetings that I was involved with DOF, which was just one, because after Paul left, I became involved in the process. They are signaling that they're not willing to accept or for us to basically take back the proposal of the cut position, and they're indicating that it shouldn't be saving, it should be a cut position. And they're pretty firm in their position in terms of talking about Department of Finance. And the other piece that I think should be mentioned is, in addition to proposing to cut our budget, we're actually also asking for additional funds for $97,000 more. So they will decrease the proposed reduction by 97,000. So we're not actually going to be 30,000 short. We're actually going to be less than that if we factor in the additional $97,000 we're asking. So just kind of adding a few of those things for your consideration.
And
Thanks, Olga. Let me just add onto that just a little bit. So we are asking to add 70,000 for our budget. 97 you're citing are for interns that we already have that are going to be grant funded. So we're asking for them to be maintained. So it's 70,000 that we're adding to our budget that we've requested.
Thank you for that correction. But still, the point is that we're also asking to add money as we're reducing the money, yes.
That's all true.
Okay. Well, I mean, with regard to the performance auditor, I think that is a position that is essential for us to fulfill the requirement that is under the city charter. And so it's not acceptable under any circumstances for the city to tell us that we have to eliminate that position from our budget unless they're willing to propose a charter change that takes away those responsibilities from the commission. So I think we need to push back as hard as possible that is a position that we may be willing to defer when the hiring is going to be, but is essential to the functioning of the commission. Then two questions. One is, are the salary savings from the current vacancy and the executive director factored into the budget proposal that's going forward?
No, because this is for FY 2026. So any savings that we've incurred on this current year's budget doesn't really apply.
Okay. Although it could apply if the city council's timeline moves forward. And then secondly, can you send to us a copy of the current budget, the current proposal for the fiscal year 25 reductions and our current proposal for FY 26?
Will do.
And do you need anything else from us today to go forward, or anything else that other commissioners want to?
I just want to be clear that we are not going to swap out that position, and we are signaling to Department of Finance and others that we are not going to reduce the performance auditor, but we won't hire for that in 2026.
Well, let me see if other people agree with that. I don't want to make it. Can we wait until the following fiscal year, which would be another year and a half before we hire a performance auditor? Keeping in mind that a lot of the work that person is going to do is going to be dictated by the meet and confer, which probably won't be done until then anyway.
Why can't that person do the job without the meet and confer?
Well, because we have a meet and confer operating procedure, and I know, Alec, I'm going to make sure that you have a chance to your committee before you have to leave. We have an operating procedure that talks about it's somewhere between 10 and 12 reporting requirements that person is going to be responsible for monitoring, and that won't happen until the operating procedures are approved.
Okay. Because I understand the investigation, but an auditor, you're just reading what they already currently have. Their procedures, their processes. I'm reading the key areas of responsibilities, and I'm not understanding why does that need to be a meet and confirm when we're just analyzing what's already available.
No, I'm saying that in order for them to do what's in the operating procedure, it has to go through the meet and confer for the very same reason for the very same reason that we're not doing internal investigations, even though the charter requires it, because that has to go through meet and confer.
Well, this is a very important position. It's definitely important. But if they can't do nothing until the meet and confirm,
Okay.
in 2026 sounds.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't mean to fully interrupt. I just want to make it known that we have a public comment.
Okay.
I can pull them, but whenever you're ready, I just want to make it known that there's a hand raised.
It's a public comment on this item.
Yes, I believe so. Let me see.
Okay.
Yes, on this topic.
Let me finish this part of the discussion, then we can go back and take the public comment. So Clovis.
First, can you clarify the conversation about switching out the auditor for the deputy executive director?
Yeah, so I wanted to, that's a higher level cut or reduction that we would offer if we went with a deputy executive director. And one thing that we would have to do is pretty much leave that vacant and not proceed with hiring for the deputy executive director position now, so that it could be vacant during the beginning of the fiscal year, which is July 1. And um, as far as, if you're asking my opinion, I think we have administration in the office with an executive director, and a deputy executive director will give us some redundancy and extra capability. But it's there are two different classifications, expertise, and I would leave us, not having a performance auditor, and the timing of when that person, that position will get to will work is the question.
Okay.
But at least we'll have the position whenever we're ready.
And thank you very much. And the second question is, Olga, you had said that at the last round of budget discussions and negotiations, that the city forced us to make a cut. Can you explain how they forced us?
I think at that point, Danelle was already involved, so in those meetings, it was clear that we needed to make a proposal. And I think she would have been able to explain that more because she was involved at that point. But she basically tried to say we're independent, we won't be making a cut, but ended up being forced to make a cut. I don't have much more information. I just know that because we still had to make a cut in the budget, our argument about being independent didn't seem to work. That's what I'm inferring.
Okay.
Olga, let me give a little bit of detail, because I was looking at, I did a history of our budget, and between FY24 and FY25, we actually increased the budget from 2191. Well, actually, we did cut. We cut like $40,000. So it was a kind of a soft cut, but we did reduce by $40,000.
Okay.
If you compare it to what we're being asked this year, really draconian.
Okay. So can we go ahead and take the public comment now, Alina?
Yes. 1 second. Okay, Brandon, you can go ahead and speak when you're ready. There you go.
Hey there, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
So one of the things I would suggest is public safety, typically when there comes to budget cuts, is usually not cut. And I would argue that the CPP should fall under the public safety purview. And many other cities across the country, per NACOL, the budget of any oversight agency is based on a percentage of whatever the public safety or specifically the police budget is. So I would recommend the CPP really push that issue, that if the police department's budget is not being cut, the oversight agency's budget should also not be cut. Because obviously, as the police department is trying to add more employees, it doesn't seem public oversight should be cut as well. I know obviously there's budget issues, but this is something I think has been a perennial issue for CBP and the CRB. So I would just recommend you guys really push that issue, that if public safety is not being cut, oversight budgets should not be cut as well.
Thank you. And is there any other public comment, Alina?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, and then Olga, your hand is raised again.
Yes, just in terms of logistics, I just wanted to make it clear to the committee that at this point, what has been submitted to DOF for the Executive Budget Review Committee presentation on February 11 includes the reduction of the performance auditor position. And that's what they have. So if the committee or commission would like to make changes, we need to signal that before the presentation so that we have updated information. And the idea of swapping the deputy executive for performance auditor came up because once we realized that DOF is saying it's not freezing the hiring, it's cutting the position, we realized it completely removed the position. So now if you were to cut a position, I think you need to make a determination which one is more vital for you, because once you cut a position, it's hard to get it back in the budget. It may take years. So just two things, right? In terms of that, the presentation is on February 11th. We need clear direction, what to present to the DOF in terms of that position cut, if at all.
Then Jaime?
Yeah, I heard the comment from from the public, and I just want to say that that's one of the first things that Paul Parker did was, approach it from the standpoint that what is public safety doing, and they're also told to cut, and we are not part of public safety for some reason.
And so I think to Olga's position, I think we need to make clear that we are willing to defer the hiring of both the performance auditor and the deputy executive director. But we are not willing to allow those positions to be eliminated from our organization structure. And we will remain firm on that, and we'll go to the city council and raise a stink if they try to do that. Is that enough direction?
Do we need a motion for
Is there a
that?
motion on that?
Yes.
I make that motion.
Okay,
Second.
so I guess to restate the motion, any further discussion? Okay, so the motion is we would like to instruct or inform the Department of Finance that the commission is willing to defer the hiring of both the performance auditor and the deputy executive director, but we adamantly oppose those positions being eliminated from our organization chart in future budgets. Okay. And
Aye.
let's just do a hand vote. Is there? Okay, looks like we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Any opposed? Abstentions? And it looks like Alec Byer is abstaining. Okay, and so I think we're done with that item, and I know Alec has to leave early, and so I wanted to give him a chance to talk about his committee before he leaves.
Yeah, the outreach committee is gonna meet tomorrow
Okay. Okay.
What time and location?
here at 6:30.
So the next item is feedback on Luke Case. Can we swap that? Because he's part of the pursuit policy. And I want to know like that item, because he has to go.
Okay. The pursuit policy response, and the issue is not, we don't have time tonight to talk about the response. That would take all night. What I put on the agenda is next steps. And the department is coming to our meeting on February 19th. So I've allocated an hour of that meeting at the beginning of the meeting for the department to come. And they initially asked for 45 minutes, which doesn't include public comment or commissioner comment. And I told them yesterday we want them to do 20 minutes. And my thought is that we would split the hour with 20 minutes from presentation by the department, and the chief himself will be coming along with other staff members. Roughly 20 minutes for public comment, and depending upon the number of people we have wanting to make public comment, we may have to decrease their time to a minute and a half, and then 20 minutes for commissioner questions or thoughts. And then prior to the meeting on the 19th, we'll call a meeting of the ad hoc committee, which if you are interested in getting into the weeds, you're welcome to attend. And at that committee meeting, we will talk about what questions the commission would like to ask of the department on February 19th.
So they're gonna present their response. We don't get nothing prior.
We have the
We have it.
response.
Oh,
We have it in writing.
You haven't got a copy of the response?
I
Yeah,
probably
you got it.
And one of the
missed my
emails,
email.
Yes, and I have one printed out, so I'd be happy to give that to you. And I will be in touch with the, thanks, Alec.
Please.
Good to see you.
Actually, if I can ask Aaron to do that, Aaron, can you coordinate the setting up a meeting of the ad hoc policy committee, ad hoc police pursuit policy committee, at least a week prior to February 19th?
Okay.
And we can, since it's an ad hoc committee, we can do it virtually on Zoom as we have in the past.
Do all of us get notices about the ad hoc committee meetings?
I don't
Because
know.
that might be one where,
I think I agree. Normally they don't, but I agree with you that particular one we should. Now I have a question for our legal counsel. If we have an ad hoc committee, and so it's not a standing committee. We can't have a majority of the commission participate in that committee, right?
Right, that's Brown Act.
And so as long as we don't have more than 8 people present, I think we only have, who's on the committee now? It's is Alec on the committee? Alec, Ada, Armando,
You
and me. Okay.
and
Chatsky.
Chesky, okay, and so that's 5. So we can have 3 more, and so maybe when we send out the notice, we could tell members that we're limited by the Brown Act to having 8, and if they would like to participate, to let me know, since I'm the chair of that ad hoc committee, so that we don't end up with the Brown Act violation.
Appreciate that.
I'm
You were
the
the
chair.
she's the chair.
Of the, your pretext.
That's right. We're not talking about pretense.
No, we're talking about.
Okay, so Chatsky is not in.
I didn't think he was, okay, yeah.
No,
Yeah,
it's
Chesky is in the,
Lupe.
okay.
Yeah,
Still
Lupe.
here,
How
fine.
do you keep all these things straight?
my brain.
Well, and actually, there's a lot of overlap in terms of concepts between those 2 committees. And Yasmin, your hand is up.
Yes, thank you. When you all just want to clarify, when you say notice, did you also want to include a notice to the public as well?
You're not Brown Act meeting.
Not for that.
Yeah.
You can, but you don't have to. Under the Brown Act.
I think this one, we're going to be organizing our questions, so we're kind of organizing internally. But we definitely will want to widely publicize the meeting on the 19th. We plan on sending the police response with the agenda. And we probably will be doing a news release as well. And so Yasmin, if you can help to make sure the community is well informed of the meeting on the 19th, and that'll be the opportunity for them to hear from the department, but also more importantly, to give community input.
Yes, happy to do that. Thank you.
Okay. Let's see if we can get through these. We may make Souvlaki, you guys are behaving yourselves, and so I appreciate it. Operating procedures update.
Do you want to go back to the
yeah.
case review process?
Oh, I'm
please,
sorry.
Skip?
Thank you. Case review process. We agreed to put on the agenda for the February 5th meeting a motion to continue with the new process on a trial basis for 6 months. That's what the consensus was. And so I'll put that motion on the agenda. But I wanted to give some quick feedback from us. And we'll probably get additional feedback at the commission meeting of how the new process is going. And Olga can also give any feedback if she wishes from a staff perspective. I liked how it went. I thought that the reports that the investigators prepared were very thorough and thoughtful. They caught things, as I mentioned in the meeting, that I probably wouldn't have caught. And it saved a whole lot of time in terms of report writing and analysis, but there still was opportunity for us as review group members to review the case and ask questions, and they were very responsive to getting back to us on the questions and so forth. And so I kind of liked how it went, but I'm just one person. Other people have feedback.
I thought it was professional and efficient. I thought that the investigators were very thorough and responsive to questions. In a detailed way that had it been commissioners, we might not have had some of the information kind of ready, at hand. I thought it went very well. So this would be 6 months then beginning in February, right? Because we haven't actually passed this yet. So it would be February through July.
Okay, I hadn't thought of the date yet, but that would be, I don't know, I mean, we did it for 1 month, so do we include the month we already did, or we didn't really clarify? I'm not. But
I'd rather give it more time than less, so, since we
Okay.
technically haven't voted on this, and, we won't until the first week of February, it might be nice to get it,
February, March,
through
April,
the
May.
end of July, so that.
July. Okay, and so I'll make the motion through July. And then we will reevaluate. And the intent too is that since it is a trial, that we can tweak it as we go along. So I think that was what people wanted, to make sure that we had the opportunity of tweaking.
Do we want to consider, with respect to budget and staff, maybe making it 5 months so that it terminates at the end of the fiscal year, so that we can consider whatever changes we want to make based on what staff we can anticipate having in the next fiscal year?
I think we'll know that before then.
I think we already know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. We can't add, we're
Right.
not gonna be reducing, certainly with investigators.
Yeah, we're not going to get any more investigators. So we're going to have, for investigators, we're going to have what we have right now.
Right, and so that's why I'm asking, we might want to look at the caseload and see whether we're overburdening our staff, and whether we want to make another adjustment that includes putting more commissioners in the mix.
Well, I think we'll have, the intent is to have flexibility of doing that. And so if we, it's a pilot project, and so we will have the opportunity of adjusting as we go along. So, but I don't have strong feelings whether it probably would be a cleaner motion to make it 6 months starting now, or starting at February 5th. So we'll make that the motion. And I forgot to ask for public comment, and so if there is any public comment on that item, speak now or forever hold your peace. If not, we will move on to the operating procedures update. And essentially it's the same thing as I mentioned at the meeting. Bart has been given his marching orders, and that is the top priority of the commission. He doesn't think it's going to take that long for him to get through the notes that Paul left, and to come back with something for our ad hoc committee. And the process reminder is that well, now Bart is going to revise the operating procedures based upon feedback from the employee relations, with input from staff, including Olga, and we'll share that with the ad hoc operating procedures committee, who will then bring it to the full commission, and then we will send it on to the public safety committee of the city, and they will then send it to the city council, who will then initiate the meet and confer process that we've been waiting forever to do. So anything you wanted to add to that, or any questions regarding that? Okay. Next is the status of the contract for our AV communications at the CPP meeting, and Olga was the one who was dealing with that issue. Olga, do you mind taking that?
Yes, of course. So last week, the city's HR labor negotiation team reached out to me, and they had a meeting with me, two folks from the HR who usually do negotiations with unions, and I forgot their position, but Deputy assistant deputy director from the communications, Alex Handy. So it was the four of us. So we basically gave an update of where we are with the AV contract negotiation, because the office currently doesn't have an appointing authority who can make decisions based on contractual decisions. So basically financial contractual decisions on behalf of the office. They can't move forward with the meet and confer. So it's paused until the commission has either an interim or a permanent executive director. As far as the current status quo, the commission will have to rely on the AV setup that we have, which is basically backtracking to what the commission had originally. So the commission's kind of capabilities and the quality of the meetings will have to be as is right now. So something to keep in mind. And I think those were the two things. Oh, and the third thing they mentioned is that the city's communications department is not able to assist the commission with any AV issues for various reasons. But basically, they don't want to set the precedent because otherwise they will be required to assist every single commission. So those were the three updates that they provided.
Did you get a sense of how long the meeting confer will take after we get an executive director?
They never tell you. It's the same question that we asked about the operating procedures, meet and confer. So they can't gauge that. The only thing they said is they're willing to push it and fast track it as far as they can given our situation. But otherwise, nobody can predict that.
Okay, that's helpful to know. Okay, anything else on that item? Okay. Next item is 14, recognition of departed commissioners and staff. I would like to.
Can we just pause on that one more time on the AV thing?
Okay.
I think we just, I don't know, like politically, what is the best thing to do? But the community is unhappy with our AV situation. And so, I mean, do we just tell them every time it's because the city won't let us contract because we don't have an executive director? Like, what?
I mean,
you know what I'm saying? It's
well,
just
the
so
obstacle
frustrating.
is the union, and so the.
Yeah, and this is cutting both ways. The union is saying you can't hire an outside AV company, but yet the city staff, which is within the union, is saying we're not going to provide those services for you. This makes no sense. Am I right? That's what I'm being told. The union is saying, no, you have to, because we provide communications for the city, you can't use an outside service. But then they're saying, we don't want to be obligated to provide services to every commission, so we're not going to provide it. Don't we need a lawyer?
We don't have enough.
No, like, like
It's
one
just
for
like-
works that
like,
works
how
for
do we
us.
push back? Because it's completely inadequate for us to have people participating via Zoom with the current AV arrangement. And when I have missed a meeting and I wanted to go back and watch the recording so I knew what happened, it was useless. I couldn't understand what was going on.
Yeah, and just from the legal standpoint, the Brown Act has been beefed up a lot. And you have to be able to give them the services. So that's one way I think that the commission could pound back on this is go, this is required. We don't have the ability to do it now. And so it either violates the Brown Act because we don't have the ability to give them the system we want. And you're not allowing us to operate them because we can't.
So who would we communicate that to?
Well, we could definitely communicate it to the city attorney. I think we could communicate it to the Public Safety Committee too. I mean, somebody's got to be over there. I'm at a little bit of loss because I don't know the structure of the city of San Diego yet, but I think it's a big issue.
Would you mind working on drafting a memo?
Sure.
And that we can send to the city attorney and the public safety and whoever else we need to, saying that we need to
Yeah, and in the meantime, I know that you had suggested, or you thought that a couple of meetings ago, all of us were gonna bring our laptops and we would all be both present and on Zoom, and I
Right.
don't know if that helps for us to do that. Alina, maybe, or Yasmin?
Yeah, oh, either way. Yasmin, go ahead. I know you've had your hand up, so you can answer this one.
Hi, folks. Alina, please chime in after. I wanted to just give you all an update from Alina, Johnny, and myself in regards to the AV. So, in response to what's happening, we have been looking at other options just to get us through temporarily until we're able to solve this issue. And one thing we did was we went to our future meeting location today, the Southeastern Live Well Center, and we tested out the actual equipment that the space has. And that includes audio, or what we thought included audio, as well as TVs for the visual and cameras. However, we realized that we're not actually allowed to use the cameras, they're only for security reasons. And when it comes to the audio, they only have 2 stationary microphones and then 2 handheld microphones. So what we've come up with is utilizing the microphones they have, as well as adding 2 microphones from our own equipment to kind of give us a total of 4 handheld microphones, where the chair would have one, each side of the commissioners would have one, so they would move it along, and then staff would have one. So that's kind of what we've come up as a temporary solution. And then in regards to but we won't have a good camera. We would have to rely on the poor quality camera we've had in the past, which is the Owl. In regards to the unmuting and muting, unfortunately, because of the amount of people in the room, there is a concern of echoing. And if people forget to unmute or mute, or forget to mute their whole the speaker of their laptop, the sound effect and the echoing would be way worse. And with the amount of people involved, we anticipate that happening a lot. And personally, I would advise against that. I would recommend we give kind of what we came up with a try next meeting, and then try to find a solution if that doesn't work.
Okay, so if I understand correctly, the recommendation is not to have everybody on their laptop. Is that correct? We just use the same system we've been using?
My personal recommendation, yes, because that will echo.
Okay. Okay, then we'll do that. And thank you to the staff for your diligence in helping us through this. We appreciate it. Okay. Any public comment? I forgot that's your public comment on that. I keep forgetting we have a member of the public present. Okay, recognition of departed commissioners and staff. I'd like to propose that we invite commissioners who have left since the initial appointment to come. The staff has already got the certificates printed, which I signed at the meeting last week, but I'd like to invite them to come to our March business meeting and publicly thank them, and also give plaques to the departing officers, who would be Gloria and Dennis. Is there any objection to that plan?
It's a good idea.
And then to invite, I guess I would like feedback on, I also would like to give some sort of appreciation to Paul and Dwayne for their efforts. I'm not sure a plaque is appropriate to give to a paid person. It could be, but maybe, and I know we can't give any gifts of city money, so we can't, unless we did something, with donations from commissioners to give them a gift card or whatever. Any thoughts on what a good way of recognizing Paul and Dwayne would be for their service?
What do we do for Danielle? We did something.
We did something for Danelle, and we did something for Charmaine. The staff would know.
Yeah, I
When we
would
did
say
that
something
downstairs.
similar.
We did it downstairs.
Yeah.
We had
Alina, do you remember what we did for Danelle Scarborough and for Charmaine Mosley?
Yeah, so for Danelle, I believe it was something that was done during the meeting, during a meeting. For Charmaine, I like the award ceremony that we had here at this building. I don't recall if that was for any prior executive directors. I know that she did come down. What did we give her? Let me see.
I think it was a city council proclamation. for
Yeah, I
her.
think we
Proclamation, that's what it was. That is correct.
Proclamation.
proclamation.
Thank you for your service. It's really good. I've gotten so much.
And Doug, you're referring to all past commissioners or just the executives?
No, right now, I thought we were talking about Paul and,
No, and we're talking about.
We're gonna do the commissioners in March,
Right.
and I wanted to do the Paul and Dwayne separate, so we don't end up with
A fist fight?
and let me check with the staff to see what the best way of doing that is, and I'll come back next month with a recommendation of how we can recognize Paul and Dwayne.
Yeah.
And then standing committees, so we already had
The rules committee will be meeting in the first half of February. I need to get with Alina about a couple of dates to toss out to everybody.
okay,
You'll
and
be with us, I assume. Rules,
sure. Yeah, we normally have one staff member assigned to staff each committee, and it would be good to have probably legal counsel to be on the rules committee.
You on the rules committee?
No.
Oh, no, you're not.
When there's a standing committee, can a commissioner join as the public?
Yes, you can,
Okay.
similar to the procedure. So you can show up, just you can't converse on any subjects with them. You can, just like any other citizen, you can do a public comment.
Okay.
But yeah, but you can't talk to the other commissioners about anything else.
Thank you.
Okay, anything on training and continuing education?
Well, we're not meeting because we're on pause, right?
That's right.
Yeah, so, but I did think of something that goes back to a previous agenda item. So the ad hoc personnel committee, with all the stuff that's going on at the city, here's my concern, because I was on the ad hoc personnel committee before, when we selected the first executive director. And we did all of this work, spent all
Wait,
this time.
Is
We
this on the
met,
agenda?
we met every single week.
Well, she's saying it's not on the agenda, so we can't really
Oh.
discuss that.
Yeah, sorry
All
about
right.
that.
Sorry. Well, anyway, I don't want to meet. That's all I'm saying. I don't want to waste our time.
I don't
So
think
we
we
can
will.
talk about it on another agenda then,
Okay,
throwing it out there.
and well, and you and I can talk one-on-one, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
but we can't talk about it tonight because I didn't put it on the agenda,
All right.
because you didn't bring it up in time.
I should have brought it up when we were talking about the hiring update. I missed my chance.
Okay.
You
And
can just call the chairman and let him know what your thoughts are.
oh, we sure he did, and I responded, but we need more discussion, so.
Okay.
Okay, and so my plan is to have our executive committee meetings on the Wednesday between the second meeting of the month and the first meeting of the month, because the first meeting of the month is a business meeting, and that allows us to work on items that will need to go on the agenda. And if in a month that has 5 weeks, then we would do it the week before the business meeting.
Okay, so not between the first and the second meeting, between the second and the first.
Correct.
So typically the last Wednesday of every month.
Yeah, the
It's a
last
4
Wednesday of
week.
every month.
Got
Yeah, I guess it would be the last Wednesday, because if there's 5 months, then it would be the last Wednesday of every month. Okay, and the next item is my most favorite item, is adjournment.
Let's go.
Is there any public comment on adjournment? Seeing none, there being no further business, the meeting is adjourned at 6:05. We did pretty good given our length of our agenda. Aaron, did you have a?
Yeah, outside the meeting.
We're adjourned, so
Um.
but why don't you go ahead and cut the recording? I don't know what you're gonna say.